Welcome to another lesson, this time another lesson 17, but rather than analyzing sonnets, this is just about making a thematic statement. Now, all of you are well accustomed to writing about theme. You've been doing it since elementary school. You read a poem, you read a book, and you come up with the overall meaning of it, right? What is the author trying to teach? What is the message, right? The main message. But there are some more nuances to writing about theme that we're going to get into to elevate and upgrade your writing and also the sophistication of your analysis. So ultimately, as you could even see in me calling it a thematic statement, it should be a full sentence. It should be a full statement. All right, so let's get into it. We should know at this point that a theme is a universal message. In other words, it should apply to human nature or life in general. It should be generally true, or at least observationally true, or it could be arguable for all people at all times in all places. And so typically a theme is not going to be so super specific to like one region of the world, and it's only going to be applicable there. A good example of this is if you take the book The Alchemist from the earlier units in this course, you could come up with some themes, right? We were able to look at archetypes, we were able to look at patterns, and those themes are not just about a specific region of the world. Any of the themes that you come up with can also be applicable to us today, which is why it is a super best-selling book, right? Same thing with biblical texts, right? When you read the Bible, you could come up with a main message, you could come up with a theme, and it was applicable to people back in biblical times, but it is also applicable to people today, right? So when we are coming up with a theme, we really do want a universal message, meaning it is something that should apply, and it should not be time bound, it should not be culture bound, it should not be tied to any ethnicity, it should be generally true about anything there, right? So universal message. Now you also want it to be more than one word or short phrase. When you're younger and you learn about theme, yes, you are going to say the theme of this book is love. Okay, great. That's a good start, but that's not the end all be all. Then, when you get a little bit older, you sophisticate that a little bit more, right? You make it more complex, more nuanced. So you say the theme of this book is love conquers all. Okay, great. A little cliche, but it is still better and it's more specific. Now, at this point in your high school career and in your literary scholarship, you should be able to come up with a full arguable statement about the theme, right? And I'm going to give you some examples. So, if you are going through a book, it could be a Shakespearean poem, it could be Romeo and Juliet, it does not matter. It could be any type of fiction. And let's just say that the topic, right, the thematic topic is love. That's fine. But now we need to ask, what does the author teach about love in that particular text? So if we take Romeo and Juliet, if we say the thematic topic is love, great. One word, that's true, it's accurate, but obviously that's too general. It doesn't really give us much. So then we have to ask, what is Shakespeare trying to teach about love? And then this is where you come up with something that might be more arguable. Maybe you are arguing that Shakespeare teaches in Romeo and Juliet that youthful love tied to commitment will conquer any challenges that come, right? So on and so forth. You could come up with a different side of that and say Shakespeare teaches that youthful love is dangerous and all-consuming, or passion-bound or lust-filled love will lead to bad things. Notice these are all general that could apply to many different situations, right? So we looked at Sonnet 18 in a different video. And as an example, since we're doing sonnets, we'll just base it off of that. Now, you could come up with many different thematic topics for that. A big one, let's just say, is beauty, right? So we have our one word there. So now we have to ask, what is Shakespeare trying to teach about beauty? And then we might come up with a thematic statement like this. Again, just an example that you could come up with within a couple minutes. Although beauty is fleeting, art and literature grants immortality to those we love. Because remember, at the end of that sonnet, he was basically asking, should I compare you to a summer's day? And answers that by saying, nah, because summer is fleeting. Kind of also hints that people are fleeting, that like nature comes and goes, all of that. But your love is going to live on. Your beauty is going to live on because I'm writing about it, right? So you could argue that the thematic statement is that, yes, beauty is fleeting, but art and literature actually protects that beauty and preserves it for a long time. So there you have it. Those are some tips to coming up with a thematic statement. Just try to remember, don't just put down one word or short phrase. Make something that's more of a full statement. I really like starting with a word like although or despite, any of these subordinating conjunctions. Start with a word like that, slap a comma there, that's the dependent clause, and then continue it on to your main part. This usually gives you enough to write about and defend and just makes it look a bit more sophisticated and complex. So try it out. Make sure you're doing it whenever you're analyzing theme. You should have a full statement.